Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Prabhupada's in Los Angeles, all these things are going wrong. It's just amazing. It's never been like this at all. Prabhupada requested 3 trusted disciples to come be with him in Los Angeles. Rupanuga. I was in Buffalo. Buffalo's near New York. I was in Buffalo. And the phone rang. Someone said, Srila Prabhupada is on the telephone. I said, what? You're kidding. It wasn't Srila Prabhupada, but it was his servant Devananda. Devananda said, Srila Prabhupada wants you to come to Los Angeles. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, he doesn't want. Then he said, Srila Prabhupada wants to talk about it now. So Srila Prabhupada got on the phone. And as soon as I heard him on the line, I paid my obeisances. Then I said, Srila Prabhupada, what's wrong? He said, you didn't know I was ill? I said, no. He said, you should come immediately. Then I said, Srila Prabhupada, let me speak to Devananda. I didn't know what was going on, so I asked Devananda, tell me what's going on. Then he said, Srila Prabhupada said, he will talk with you when you come. He will explain everything. And it's New York to Los Angeles. It's the other side of the country. I think it's like a 5-hour flight, something along those lines. I mean, it's a long way. Okay. Bhagavan Das. One day after coming back from Sankirtan, I received a call from Rupanuga, who told me he was on his way to Los Angeles, having received a call from Prabhupada that there was some disturbance there. He couldn't tell me more, but he said he would call me when he returned. This set my mind reeling. I sat in the chair, hot and sweaty after coming back from Sankirtan, my mind absorbed in thinking of Prabhupada and what could be going on. I called Los Angeles to talk to Prabhupada's secretary, Devananda, who told me he couldn't really say anything at that point. I was hoping somehow or other I would get more information of the situation, but after waiting some time, I went in to take my shower. I was in the shower when all of a sudden someone banged on the door. Prabhupada is on the telephone. He wants to speak with you. I was sure there was some misunderstanding. How is it possible that the spiritual master could be on the telephone? Anyway, I ran out of the shower all wet and picked up the telephone and said, hello? There was a long pause. Then all of a sudden I heard Srila Prabhupada's voice on the other end. Bhagavan Das? Yes, I said. Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. How can I serve you? I was completely stunned. Then Prabhupada's voice came slowly on the phone. There are many things that you will do, but the first thing is that you must come here immediately. I said, of course, Srila Prabhupada, I'll be there right away. And with that, we both hung up. So I'm not sure where he was. Oh, he was in Detroit. I managed to gather the money together to take the flight to Los Angeles. And when I got on the plane in Detroit, it just so happened that Rupa Nuga was also on the same plane. We sat together and discussed what could possibly be happening in Los Angeles to cause Srila Prabhupada so much distress. When we arrived at the airport, Karanda picked us up and told us that some of the older devotees had been plotting against Prabhupada, and that day Prabhupada had given several of the men sannyas and sent them away to preach. This was all quite amazing to me, and I didn't really know what to make of it. When we came into Prabhupada's room, he looked distressed and was rubbing his head, complaining of the blood pressure that was caused by the conspiracy. Tamal Krishna, I had written Srila Prabhupada a lengthy letter from Paris describing how we wanted to expand our preaching efforts in Europe. And suddenly I received a telegram from His Divine Grace that said, "Received your letter 26 July. Come Los Angeles immediately." I was quite surprised, and I remember disentangling myself that very day and leaving that night, even though I was in charge of the activities there. When I arrived in Los Angeles, I found Rupa Nuga, Bhagavan, Kirtanananda Swami, and Karanda. I was in a very enthusiastic, blissful mood from having done so much Sankirtan, and I had no idea of any difficulty. But these devotees were all in a heavy, sober, somber mood, and they tried to explain to me what was going on. But actually, I could not get a very clear understanding. I had arrived in the late afternoon, and I could not see Srila Prabhupada. Early in the next morning, when Prabhupada was informed that I had arrived, he called for me before Mangal Arati. I went up to his quarters, and when I came through the door, Prabhupada was sitting in his room with his head downward. He looked up, and he appeared to be almost ill. He was gaunt and looked very sorrowful. He said meekly, just as I was bowing down, "Have they told you?" Of course, I hadn't really understood everything, but in reply to his question I said, "Yes, they have told me some things." And Prabhupada said, "Can you help me?" So I answered, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." He said, "Can you take me out of here?" I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." Of course, I didn't feel that I could help Srila Prabhupada, but I could understand that I had to say yes. How can you say, "No, I won't"? But how far could I help? It's like lifting the heaviest object in the world. The Guru is so heavy, and yet I had to say yes. So Prabhupada asked me next, "Where will you take me?" And I said, "Well, we can go to Florida." He said, "No, that is not far enough." I said, "I could take you to Europe." He said, "No, that also will not be good. The problem may be there also." So anyway, we didn't conclude where to go at that time. But Prabhupada said, "It is like a fire here. I must leave at once. It has become like a fire." Prabhupada confided in Rupanuga, Tamal Krishna and Bhagavan about the various incidents, his mail withheld, his name misprinted, his riding in the Rath Yatra parade restricted. He mentioned these and other indications that certain persons wanted to move him into the background, out of the reach of his disciples. He didn't want to stay in Los Angeles. He didn't want to stay in the United States. And he didn't even want to go to Europe. He wanted to leave the arena of his disciples' offenses. But before leaving, he wanted to complete his plans for establishing a governing body to manage ISKCON. To this end, he dictated the following on July 28th. I, the undersigned, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, disciple of Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa 108, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada, came in the United States in 1965 on September 18th for the purpose of starting Krishna consciousness movement. For 1 year I had no shelter. I was traveling in many parts of the country. Then in 1966 July, I incorporated this society under the name and style the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, briefly ISKCON. Gradually the society increased, and one after another branches were open. Now we have got 34 branches, enlisted herewith. As we have increased our volume of activities, now I think a governing body commission, hereinafter referred to as the GBC, should be established. I am getting old, 75 years old. Therefore at any time I may be out of the scene. Therefore it is necessary to give instructions to my disciples how they shall manage the whole institution. They're already managing individual centers represented by one president, one secretary, and one treasurer. And in my opinion, they're doing nice. But we want still more improvement in the standard of temple management, propaganda for Krishna consciousness, distribution of books and literatures, opening of new centers, and educating devotees to the right standard. Therefore, I have decided to adopt the following principles, and I hope my beloved disciples will kindly accept them. Prabhupada then listed the names of the 12 persons who would form the GBC. 1. Rupanuga Das Adhikari, a Sriman Rupanuga Das Adhikari. 2. Sriman Bhagavan Das Adhikari. 3. Sriman Shamsundar Das Adhikari. 4. Sriman Satsvarup Das Adhikari. 5. Sriman Karanda Das Adhikari. 6. Sriman Hansaduta Das Adhikari. 7. Sriman Tamal Krishna Das Adhikari. 8. Sriman Sudama Das Adhikari. 9. Sriman Bali Madan Das Brahmachari. 10. Jagadish Das Adhikari. 11. Sriman Hayagriva Das Adhikari. 12. Sriman Krishna Das Adhikari. Some of them are still alive. who's still alive. Well, actually, I'm not sure. But some of them are still engaged in Krishna consciousness. These personalities are now considered as my direct representatives. While I am living, they will act as my zonal secretaries. And after my demise, they will be known as executors. Prabhupada further described the role of the sannyasis. I've already awarded sannyas, or the renounced order of life, to some of my students, and they've also got very important duties to perform in this connection. The sannyasis will travel to our different centers for preaching purpose, as well as enlightening the members of the center for spiritual advancement, unquote. Prabhupada's legal document went on to set forth general directions for the GBC secretaries. They should travel regularly to the temples in their respective zones to ensure that each devotee chanted 16 rounds and followed a regulated schedule, and that the temples were clean. His 12 GBC secretaries would relieve him of management, and they would rectify present and future difficulties within the society. That rectification, Prabhupada's document explained, would be possible only when the devotees in each temple engaged fully in regulated devotional service, rising early for Mangal Arati at 4:30, attending Srimad Bhagavatam class, and reciting the Sanskrit verses, and chanting in the streets and distributing Back to Godhead magazine and other Krishna-conscious literature. This emphasis on strictly following Krishna-conscious principles should supersede all material formulas for management. The GBC should ensure that in their appointed zones all the devotees were properly engaged. There would be no Maya. The next day, Prabhupada drafted another significant statement, naming Bhagavan, Rupanuga and Karanda trustees of his Bhaktivedanta book trust. This is what he said. The Bhaktivedanta book trust account will be used to publish my books and literature and to establish temples throughout the world. Specifically, 3 temples are to be established, one each in Mayapur, Vrindavan, and Jagannath Puri. Since returning to America in 1967, Prabhupada had often said he would stay permanently in America as the adopted son of his disciples. Now, he revealed new plans. He spoke of going to India to preach and to establish large ISKCON temples. For the devotees who based their activities mostly in small rented houses, Prabhupada's constructing cathedral-like buildings in India was inconceivable. In India, Prabhupada said, he would teach his disciples how to preach and how to establish temples. Prabhupada picked a team, including 2 newly initiated sannyasis, to accompany him to India. In the future, he said, more disciples could join him. for India would become an important field of education, important field for Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada wrote Satsvarup and Uddhava in Boston. You are all my children, and I love my American boys and girls who are sent to me by my spiritual master, and I've accepted them as my disciples. Before coming to your country, I took sannyas in 1959. I was publishing Back to Godhead since 1944. After taking sannyas, I was more engaged in writing my books without any attempt to construct temples or to make disciples like my godbrothers in India. I was not very much interested in these matters because my Guru Maharaj liked very much publication of books than constructing big temples. Where am I? And creating some neophyte disciples. As soon as he saw that his neophyte disciples were increasing in number, he immediately decided to leave this world. To accept disciples meant to take up the responsibilities of absorbing the sinful reaction of life of the disciple. Quote, at the present moment, in our ISKCON campus, politics and diplomacy has entered. Some of my beloved students on whom I counted very much have become involved in this matter, influenced by Maya. As such, there has been some activity which I consider as disrespectful. So I've decided to retire and divert attention to book writing and nothing more. Wow, so Prabhupada is intending to retire on the spot, more or less. Of course, he doesn't actually do that, but that's what he's considering right now. On July 31st, Prabhupada wrote Brahmananda and Gargamuni, explaining why he was leaving for India. Quote, in order to set example to my other sannyasi disciples, I'm personally going to Japan with a party of 3 other sannyasi students. Although it is beyond my physical condition, still I'm going out so that you may learn the responsibility of sannyas. I am fervently appealing to you all not to create fracture in the solid body of the society. Please work conjointly without any personal ambition. This will help the cause. It is the injunction of the Vedas. This is still Srila Prabhupada. It is the injunction of the Vedas that the spiritual master should not be treated as ordinary man. Even sometimes the spiritual master behaves like ordinary man. It is the duty of the disciple to accept him as a superhuman man. In the beginning of your letter, your comparison of the soldier and the commander is very appropriate. We're on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, one side Maya, the other side Krishna. So the regulative principles of a battlefield, namely to abide by the order of the commander, must be followed. Otherwise, it is impossible to direct the fighting capacity of the soldiers and thus defeat the opposing elements. Kindly therefore take courage. Let things be rightly done, so that our mission may be correctly pushed forward to come out victorious. Prabhupada wrote other letters revealing his plans to travel to India. A quote, "Our life is very short. The Krishna consciousness movement is not meant for fulfilling one's personal ambition, but it is a serious movement for the whole world. I am therefore going to the Eastern Hemisphere, beginning from Japan. We are going foreigner party, and all of us are sannyasis. In this old age, I'm going with this party just to set an example to my disciples who have taken recently the sannyas order." In preparation for Prabhupada's trip to India, Prabhupada's secretary Devananda, now Devananda Swami, asked him questions from the immigration form this is a good one. Oh gosh. Mechanically reading the questions and filling in the answers as Prabhupada replied. "Have you ever committed any criminal acts?" Devananda asked. Oh, Krishna. Reading from the form. Prabhupada's eyes widened. "You are asking your spiritual master if he did anything criminal?" And he turned to Bhagavan. "You see, I am simply surrounded by people I cannot trust. It is a dangerous situation." Prabhupada sat in his garden the night before his departure. "Don't be disturbed," he told the disciples with him. "We are not going backward. We're going forward. I will reveal everything to you. It will rectify." His strong words and criticisms, he said, had been to enlighten his disciples, to warn them and show them the subtleties of Maya. Karanda mentioned that the temple leaders had arranged that only a few devotees go with Prabhupada the next day to the airport. "Where did this idea come from?" Prabhupada asked. "Srimad Bhagavatam instructs that when a saintly person leaves your company, all present should follow the departing vehicle as far as possible until it is out of sight." So the next day, the devotees all accompanied Prabhupada, chanting and dancing behind him through the long corridors of Los Angeles International Airport. After many months with them, he was now leaving. Devotees cried. Prabhupada, dressed in new garments, his head freshly shaven, looked effulgent. He sat in the departure lounge, head held high, as grave and unfathomable as ever. He was embarking on a new adventure for Lord Caitanya. He was old and might not return, he said, but his disciples should continue the Krishna consciousness movement seriously. "If you follow this new schedule," he said, "you will keep Maya from attacking." And then he left. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Comments, questions? No? Okay. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.